Welcome to King's Things. You know, over the years, I've interviewed some of the most influential people of our times. And they're not all Mensa Club members or even geniuses, but they had something in common. Something I've called the IT factor. Studies show that the IT factor may be emotional intelligence, or EQ. With me today is Sophia Dickens, CEO of EQtainment, and Vanessa Lachey, actress and TV host, the mom of two, and also an owner of EQtainment. Before we get to this board game and the like, first tell me, what is emotional intelligence, Sophia?
Emotional intelligence is how you control your impulses and how you manage your emotions and other people's emotions around you. But when you're talking about kids, it really just boils down to behavior and social skills.
How'd you come up with this idea?
It started way back when I was a student at Harvard, and Daniel Goleman, who was a Harvard scholar, came to speak to us about EQ. And so I've been fascinated with it. And then fast forward a few years to when I became a parent for the first time, I decided I don't want my kids just leaving the house at 18 having memorized a bunch of stuff. I actually want them to be emotionally intelligent. So I set out to find products that I could use to teach my kids, and there was nothing out there. There was nothing on the market, so I spent years and years researching, developing, and designing a whole product line of toys that parents can use as tools to teach their kids these really valuable skills.
Doesn't Michael Milken have a whole setup of toys that he has for children, educational toys?
Absolutely. Now, most of the educational toys on the market are focused around IQ, but EQ...
He has a frog, I think.
Right. Well, EQ, on the other hand, is something that you can improve upon throughout your whole life. And just practicing something that seems complex, but is actually pretty simple.
To that point, actually, when we were researching this, you doing most of the research, that is, your IQ stops, I guess, at around age 5. Your IQ can't get any better. You can hone in on it and whatnot, but EQ you can develop from my son is 2 and I'm working on it up until, God knows when. It's something that you can constantly work on, constantly develop, constantly nourish, and that's what I love about this.
Yeah, the good news is you don't have to be born a genius to be successful in life. These are some really great tools that you can practice that lead to healthy relationships and a more fulfilled career and a fulfilled life.
What parents want for their kids.
How did you get involved?
Well, we have known each other for over 5 years now, and she obviously is a mother of 3 and went to Harvard and is not only bright, but one of the nicest people I've ever met. And our friends joke that whenever we all had kids, because she had kids first, we wanted to kind of send them off to the Sophia Dickens camp and then let her give them back to us at 5-year-old because she's educated herself so much on this. And so now that I do have a child and one on the way, I've wanted to implement these tools and I've wanted to understand it more. And truth be told, I was shocked that I'm actually doing EQ quality tools with my son without even knowing that that's what that was. For example, I would tell him, when you say thank you to somebody, look them in the eye. That's practicing their social skills. Or if he wants a piece of candy and I would physically turn his body and not indulge in that, that's practicing his, impulse control. And all of these qualities that you need, whether it's in high school, in college, in getting that job interview, being promoted in your career, getting a relationship going, being a family person, these are all qualities that we can work on now. And I think that also is something that people don't think about. They think that this is...
Is this teachable in a classroom?
Absolutely. A classroom, in a home, 10 seconds a day, 10 minutes a day, an hour a day. I mean,
it takes such a short amount of time. And I think most parents agree with what we're saying, that this is one of the most important things that you can practice with your kids, but they don't feel like they have the tools. So I wanted to make it really fun and simple so that any mom or dad or any teacher could apply these tools and practice and work on the skills. And it's not about perfection or being a perfectly social child or perfect manners. It's about the process and enjoying the process and just working on it on a daily basis.
I feel like nowadays in society, it's like we are so we're beaten down as moms and as fathers with milestones. Your kid at 6 months has to do this, at 24 months has to do this, by 5 has to be doing this, and it gives you anxiety, and then you feel kind of like a failure if they're not hitting these points. So what I love about this is that it gives me and my husband this tool, and to her point, we're not telling people how to raise their children by any means. I mean, we're not professionals. We're giving them tools to put in their daily lives.
Your husbands are both successful. Are they involved in this with you?
my husband is involved in the sense of my parenting, but as far as my passion with Sophia, he does it with my son. In fact, it's actually kind of helped our marriage in a weird way, because we used to fight a lot. You know, meltdowns in children happen all the time. And my son is no different. He's 2, and one of my number one fears is whether I'm on an airplane or I'm in a grocery store and the meltdown happens. What do I do? What do we do? And all of a sudden you find yourself as a grown adult freaking out. So this has given us that stability to, we have tools, we know what we're doing, we're on this together. Whereas before, when my son would have a meltdown, my husband would look at me and say, what do I do now? What does the book say, Vanessa? What do you think we should do? I'm like, I don't know what we do. What book? I've read a million books and I don't know.
What about Reed Dickens, your husband?
So I have roped him in because this business, EQtainment, obviously lives in his bedroom. So he's tried to quit many times, but he really believes in this because it's part of our parenting. It's something that dads can do when they come home after a long day of work and they just want to bond with their kids for 10 minutes. Well, you play Q's Race to the Top and you ask these questions and you do these fun actions, and all of a sudden you've gone deeper with your child and you've had this quality time. We're kind of moving the needle towards developing the kind of child that you're hoping for.
Right.
Why did you turn it into a board game?
Well, I thought that would be a really easy way to introduce the brand character Q. He is a genius monkey with a low EQ. So we basically learn from all of Q's mistakes, and it's a great way for the kids to learn about different social scenarios, because they get to tell Q what he's supposed to do in different situations. And then there's questions to the kids too. And I thought it would just be a fun way to kind of get kids hooked on the concept, and it's tangible. And with all the electronics nowadays, we'll have apps, and this is going to be a content company where we're developing a video series. But for now, this is something that kids can actually play with their parents or grandparents or teachers.
I feel like it brings it back. It brings it back to the basics, game night with your family, dinner with your family, conversation with your family, and that's what this is. And it's you force yourself to sit down for a minute, 10 minutes a day, and have this amazing bonding time.
Where is it available?
It's going to be available in all 2,000 Target stores
When?
This January. So
wow.
We're really excited about that. We are available on the website also, EQtainment.com.
And how does it work?
So it's kind of like a Candyland concept where you have to get all the way to the top. But this is Q's tree house that he designed. He's a genius monkey. And then we have the U cards, the Do cards, and the Q cards. So the kids land on a spot, they draw a card. It's either a question about the child, what does it mean to be brave? What does it mean to be a good sport? What do you do when...
So when you roll dice, you roll one die?
Yes.
One die. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you roll one die and I get a 3.
And then you
so
move
I'm
Q
one
up
of the
the
players,
board.
right? So are there 4 players?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm blue, so I go 3. 1, 2, 3.
So you got a blue card, and then we draw a card and we say, name something that's really boring. Can you think of a way to make it more fun? Because how many times do you have a child saying, this is boring, or let's do, and you kind of put the burden on them to come up with something to make it fun.
Well, what's great about this game, and that Sophia has fine-tuned and worked on for so long, is that there's no real right or wrong. It's catered to each family. So you can say, like, what does it mean to be a good sport? My definition of a good sport might not be your definition of a good sport, but it's what you want to teach your children and what you want them to strive towards. And then what I found extremely interesting, and getting further into EQ and developing it in my child, is the actual physicality of it. And by that, I mean these Do cards, you can explain this better, on how it correlates physically with your emotional intelligence.
Well, so studies have shown that in order to gain mental and emotional self-control, which is one of the core components of emotional intelligence, we all know that, when your kid throws a fit on the ground, they're lacking that self-control that they need to practice,
physically,
right?
Too.
You've got meltdowns going on. And so the Do cards actually tap into this study that shows in order to get that mental self-control, you have to first, as a child, learn to control your limbs through balance and coordination. So there are all these really fun, crazy actions that they're hilarious, and the kids have a blast, but they're actually laying the foundation for something that's going to benefit them later in life.
Which is another thing that when I was telling her I was doing with my son, we're working on jumping and we're working on balancing and we play games and we do tickle fights. She's like, oh, well, this is great because you're working on his physical coordination and his balance, and this is all leading to his EQ. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is great. So now I'm armed, A, with this knowledge, and then B, to apply it, and then C, I'm further validated that I feel like I'm doing this. Like I'm doing good parenting. At least I feel validated as a mother that something I'm doing is going to give my son this tool to take on for the rest of his life. And so what I loved about our partnership is that I see her as, I mean, she's an amazing woman, an amazing mother, an amazing wife, and not everybody has a Sophia in their life. So I'm kind of that connection, if you will, to the everyday mom. I've been very vocal about motherhood, the good and the bad. And this is something that I have found that I am not only obsessed with personally, but that I wanted to be part owner with, to share with moms and to share with dads, because it's so accessible, it's so easy. I think when you even talk about EQ and all the brilliant people you've interviewed, I think the everyday person's like, wow, that's, you know, it's unattainable. That's their EQ. Even the word EQ, you automatically think back to IQ, which we all know is, you know, your intelligence and your brilliance, and people think it's unattainable. This is so easy for everyone to implement.
Now the do cards, I just pick up one. Standing with your feet wide apart, bend your knees and crouch down low, then shuffle sideways across the room. Staying low, shuffle all the way back.
You gonna do it?
So count how many seconds you can stand on one leg on your toes. These are all doing
These are all
things.
do cards, so they're actions. And you know, some of the
So it
actions.
depends on what color you land on, you get a do card.
Exactly.
Right.
And the kids squeal and scream and get so excited when they get a do card, because then they get to show off something that they're capable of doing.
And then the blue cards are you, dealing directly with you.
Yep.
Have you ever told on someone? Talk about it when it's okay and not okay to tell on someone.
Yeah, you know, that's something that's great to discuss
Very
before an
individual,
incident
too.
happens, right?
There's no right or wrong here, right?
No, and that's what I designed the board game so that the questions would be open-ended, and it doesn't matter what your value system is or how old your children are or what their level is. You know, you can just apply it to whatever your own family's rules are, or the rules for the classroom.
So do I understand, and you I understand, Q means...
Now, Q is a social scenario. So you're watching Q, the monkey, who has a genius IQ, who lacks EQ and always messes things up by hurting people's feelings or acting impulsively. And you get a question about Q and something he does to his siblings, and the child gets to say, well, Q should have, because it's easier for kids to tell other people what to do, right? But they're learning, you know, Q threw a fit, so is it okay to throw a fit? What is another way to show that you're upset? And so the kids are actually talking through it with their parents.
Q's brother often tells Q to have patience when they're waiting in the car. What does patience mean? Talk about some ways to practice having patience.
Yes, and that's something that some parents think their kids are born with, but it's actually something you just need to practice, the way
What
you
age?
do math and science.
What age do we start with?
3 to 7, I think, is the best age range.
But again, that's why this, like, for example, if I were to say that card to my 2-year-old, he wouldn't, patience is, he's like, what are you talking about? So I'm working now with my husband on implementing other techniques. There's the books, there's a coloring book, there's a stuffed animal with a breathing exercise. But what I'm doing with him at 2 is starting this process. And it's, like I said, the simple things, look Larry in the eye, Mr. Larry, when you say thank you, nice to meet you, or the impulse control, or even empathy. When I'm watching a movie with him, I say, oh, look, he's sad. Why is he sad? They understand other people's feelings.
So what comes with it is the book, is the game, books,
yes.
all part of the package.
A storybook series. And then we also have a weighted stuffed animal that's used in a breathing exercise, and you can use that for the younger set. It's great for toddlers, but it comes from this fascinating study of children in Spanish Harlem who are coming in with all these behavioral issues and weren't able to concentrate, so they used a technique where they would put a stuffed animal on their bellies and watch it go up and down as they breathe. And the teacher had a whole new classroom full of kids who were attentive and ready to learn. And so the breathing buddy, it's really it's called the Q time buddy. It's a way to help kids focus and practice improving their attention span. So it's something you can do every day, and that's what we call Q time.
I think
Wow.
I think the basic thing about this and what I love about it is that it's not overwhelming. We're not trying to tell people how to raise their children by any means. I found this is such a great learning tool for me as an everyday mom who everyday moms are just trying to shower, make their kids lunch, and get out of the house with everybody in one piece, in your shoes on, and your phone in your hand, and gas in the car. This isn't about, listen, we're going to need you to take an hour a day. We're not trying to tell people that by any means. You can take 10 seconds a day and implement one of these qualities, or you can sit down and play a whole game for 10 minutes.
Can't these be used in schools? Kindergarten, first, second grade.
Absolutely. They're such a great tool.
I would think every school would want to
Well,
have
I feel like there's a whole change, to your point, on teaching. Everything up until this point has been focused on IQ. And my son goes to a 2-year-old's program, and my number one concern isn't, is he going to learn the alphabet today? Is he going to have addition today? It's, is he going to sit down and circle time with patience? Is he going to smack another kid? Is he going to get angry and act out? Is he going to be, you know, great with adults that are introduced into the classroom? And these, again, are all EQ qualities. And I think nowadays, I was just telling Sophia that my son's classroom send us what they're doing every month, and it's kind of catering towards a little bit of EQ, which I find encouraging, because up until this point, it's been IQ, IQ, IQ in schooling, you know?
Which is great, but this really lays the foundation for academics. So the state of Illinois implemented a social emotional learning program, and they had a huge spike in their academic scores. Not to mention, of course, they reduced the amount of fights and behavioral issues.
And it's not
you
replacing.
see that this works in the classroom, and it's not replacing
It's
academics.
just in addition
it is a supportive product for your parenting and for the academics that you're already focusing on for your kids.
It's a great idea. You recently, I'm told, initiated a Kickstarter campaign for Q's Race to the Top. You raised $31,200. Your goal was $25,000. Were you surprised by that, the reaction?
Well, you know, it was really fun. It was a great way to truly kickstart, no pun intended, this process. And walking into Target, having the Kickstarter backers and all these mommy bloggers all over the country that have now played the game and tested some of the products with their kids, we had such an amazing feedback from them. So it allowed us to walk into Target and say, look at all this support we have, and they fell in love with the concept and said, this is exactly what we've been looking for.
I feel like we've all been looking for this. We just didn't know this is what it was.
That's the encouraging thing for me, because I'm traveling around the country talking to parents, and moms say, this is what I've been looking for my kids.
Because when your kid has a meltdown in Target, what do you do? What do you do? Do you know what I mean? Do you physically discipline them? Do you emotionally talk them out of things? You don't understand it. And again, this isn't giving, I'm not saying we're curing all 2-year-olds of meltdowns across the country, because that would be bold, but anything's possible. What I love about it is it gives you direction. Now, my husband and I, as parents, have focus. We understand what our goal is. We understand what we're trying to get at. It's an ongoing journey of developing our son's EQ.
Now, how are they going to promote it? Target going to promote it a lot? Are you going to have advertising? How are we going to get this out to the public?
Exactly. Well, Vanessa is having this baby in a very untimely date, right as we're going, right as we're doing this launch. But then we were planning on going out and just kind of, I think the most important thing for us is going to be building this community of moms and dads and teachers all over the country that feel the same way, that this is something vital we should be teaching our kids and that we can actually improve upon every day. So let's incorporate it into our daily lives without adding any added trouble.
I think she hit the nail on the head saying building the community, because ultimately, no mom wants to feel like they're failing, but every mom out there would love any guidance they can get. I know, me personally, I've signed up for a gazillion baby sites, and I get emails, I get texts, I'm bombarded with all this quote-unquote advice that some of it is helpful. I remember some of it, and I implement it. Wow, baby brain is setting in. But what I think we can do with this is kind of, again, we lovingly say, we're not here to wag our fingers at parents. We're here to say, ah, shucks, we've done this, and here's how we can help you.
What's the next step for EQtainment? More games, more toys?
Exactly. We're also going into producing a video series. So we want to create some episodic content, because every parent occasionally needs to use the virtual babysitter. Yeah. And it's great when you have something that your child's watching that you can feel good about, that's actually educating them and improving them in some way. And so we're going to be doing that. We'll hopefully be doing a radio podcast where we can share some of this great wisdom we've learned from the experts, and we can pass it along to other moms and say, hey, this is what we're trying. Why don't you try it too? So I think for EQtainment, it's going to be about content, about really providing some great quality material for parents.
And tangible stuff for parents to actually take into their families.
Let's dream 10 years from today.
10 years from today.
EQ is?
EQ. Oh, that's a good one.
10 years from today, all my kids are looking grown-ups in the eyes and saying thank you and smiling.
And everyone in America knows about it.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great.
And the world. I think, there's a commonality between parents across the globe, and they all deal with these issues, and manners and meltdowns. And so it would be great to provide something that everybody can use.
I think this is just kind of making people aware and giving them the knowledge that it isn't something that's unattainable, and then watching it just kind of take over, watching the way that we teach our children evolve into this, ultimately.
This is really important.
It is important.
I congratulate you both. I thank you both. Anything I can do, we'll be promoting it and talking about it. I think it's a great concept.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much.
Big thanks to my guests, Sophia Dickens and Vanessa Lachey. Be sure to look for EQtainment at a Target store near you. It's coming in January. And if you want more information, go to EQtainment.com. That's EQtainment.com. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at KingsThings. I'll see you next time.
You said that with conviction.
Wow.
I'm sold.
Have you ever told on someone?
You answered
Now
that
remember,
question, Larry.
there's no right or wrong.
Snitch.